Welcome to Movie Monday, the first one. We don't really have a standardized introduction for this, so it's going to be kind of all over the place.
It's free-handed.
Yeah, it's freehand. Isn't that great? So, today we watched Mulan, Rise of a Warrior, which is the 2009 Chinese film of Mulan, if anyone was not really aware. And I don't really know what else to say in the introduction.
Good enough.
Okay. Yeah, so we watched a Chinese film today, which I don't think I've watched a Chinese film before, actually.
I don't think I have either.
I can't remember. I know, okay. This sounds like super racist in my head, but I'm thinking I can't remember if that film was Chinese or Japanese, but
Oh my god.
It was old time Asian people doing things, okay? I don't remember. I was a younger person, alright? So, it was probably Japanese, but whatever. So, yeah, and it was, especially it was, because either way, that was an older movie. So
yeah.
It's interesting seeing, a quote-unquote, modern Chinese movie. I mean, it's not exactly, it's still, set in the past, obviously, but...
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of relate to... I think because of that, that's kind of what my main issues are. Because, okay, overall I'm positive, I'll say that. But, the pacing... is weird.
The pacing is weird.
It's weird.
Pacing, yeah. I found the pacing weird, and I found the weird whiteouts.
Yes, exactly.
Because I'm like, oh, okay, the scene is going, and then it just stops abruptly.
Yeah.
And there's whiteouts. I was like, what? Why is that? And it just cuts to the next scene, and it's like, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree. The flow of the story is kind of... It's set up almost like a play, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense.
It's different acts and scene changes, and I was thinking the original folktale is kind of, I think, a poem, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe I don't know. I think that in general, older, quote unquote older Asian movies, they tend to have a very weird format. I've seen a couple of Japanese samurai film, and they're also a little bit weirdly paced as well. I don't know if that's just a common old practice.
But this is from 2009, though, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, because even in addition, okay, the fade out, it's the white, because I remember I was thinking for several times, I was oh, this is a pretty good scene. Oh, it's ended. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it all just seemed too short.
Well, it's kind of both, because we were talking about, we had a little break because Tara got disconnected for a little bit, and Maya and I were talking, and we're this is really fast.
Yeah.
But then that was I don't know, a third of the way through or whatever. But then once we got to about the halfway point, then it was way slower.
Yeah.
So it was kind of odd again with that, where even ignoring the actual technical aspects of it, just the pacing of the story was kind of off a little bit too. And
I think it was also because of all the scene changes. Valen, you were saying, oh, this is a really good scene. For me, I was oh, we're gonna learn more about this. Oh,
yeah, now it's over.
yeah, because that's the thing. They don't.
I feel I didn't really get to know any of the characters.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's not the character's not bad. It's just
yeah.
It's the thing is, there are a decent number of emotional scenes, but they don't land as well as they would, because it's you care a lot about this, and it's kinda, I guess. So yeah. And I know I shouldn't, we shouldn't spend this entire discussion of, trying to be well, the Disney version, blah, 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 right? But
yeah.
I will say that in this version, the fact that Mulan is female is really not, that important.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. It's kind of important. It's, important in the very beginning. And, the first initial thing with, the the camp or whatever. But pretty much once that's over with, then it's like not addressed like really at all, except for, and this is something I noticed, and I think this also might have to do with just Chinese like culture or whatever. Sexist is the wrong word, but like there's like gender like tropes that are like really clear here, where it's like
yeah, the gender norms.
Yeah,
gender norms are very
because like it's the whole thing where it's like, oh, you know, Mulan's like the warrior person. It's like, okay, and they even like when like she's fighting or whatever, like she's legitimately like, pretty badass. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but she's the one who gets like emotional for the fight or whatever, and like with the guy, and the whole thing is like, you know, you get emotionally attached, and it's like, really.
No one's picking on Tiger for being emotionally attached to.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about like how and okay, another issue is that it felt like the movie kind of kept jumping around between like its themes. So for a while it's like, you know, oh, I'm the woman who's taking place of a man, and then it's like, oh, I'm the one who's like gonna take charge and fight, and it's like, oh, I'm the one who actually like really doesn't like fighting and like, you know, thinks it's bad, and it's like,
kind
you know,
of like each scene has its own theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So. And
there's like 30 scenes, so in each one it's different somehow.
Yeah, it's like each individual scene is usually like fine to pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It just as a whole, it kind of is a bit weird. And again, maybe that's just again the Chinese film culture at the moment. I'm not sure, but
or at least in 2009.
Well, yeah, I mean, God, that is geez, that's 10 years ago. It's weird.
I know the C-drama films are very, very melodramatic, so I don't think that they had a similar... Because my grandmother, she watches, you know, the period Chinese film. I don't know, maybe other Asian people know what I'm talking about. Wait, Tara, didn't you say your grandmother also watched a couple of them?
Not C-dramas. Not Chinese dramas, just Indian.
But it's kind of the same idea.
It's the same idea, yeah.
No.
There was one time that she was watching this drama and the woman was getting married or whatever, and then like a year later my mom out of curiosity was like, oh, did the person get married? No, her lover died in a tragic fire or something and she never got married.
I mean, at the very least, they didn't make it melodramatic. It was just kind of weird, yeah, with the gender...
Yeah, the gender...
expectation?
Yeah.
Because I guess in the... As Valence, hopefully this doesn't just turn into, like, a comparison to the Disney one, but, I feel like in the Disney one, like... Yes, it also didn't, like, completely concentrate on Mulan's, like... thing about being a woman and everything, especially in like the training phase and whatever, but it also didn't showcase her as any different from any of the other people either.
Yeah, she was just another one of the other soldiers. It's just that, yeah, she's a woman, that's it.
Yeah, and
there was no weird imposition on her.
Well, the weird imposition was, the weird thing was, again, the whole thing about she's trying to like hide that she's a woman or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like here, it's like they're making her character different, but they're just ignoring the fact that she is. So it's like a weird flip. It's in that though. It's yeah. And like there was something specific I wanted to get at. Crap. What was it? Oh, okay. Like at the end where it's like, oh, they don't get together, right? Mulan and Wentai. And it's like, at first I was like, okay, that's like kind of interesting, and it makes sense to want to stay with her dad or whatever. But I'm like, wait a minute, but like through the whole like actual like movie when they're on the battlefield, like it's really setting it up like they are going to be together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I get what you're trying to do, and like I overall think it's like a kind of a decent idea, but you didn't set up your decent idea very well. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't. It sounds like I'm just trashing on the movie that it's bad, but it's really not.
I think maybe what it is that this isn't. It's weird because like I feel like it's not really a character piece. It's more like a war film.
Yeah, that's.
So I was looking at this as a war film.
That's more fair because again, like there really isn't a lot of like character development and stuff, right?
No, yeah.
Like the war stuff is really interesting, but you don't get, you don't really get a sense of like the characters as in like who they are outside of the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the character I connected the most to was actually Tiger. So when he died, I was pretty sad.
I think Tiger, and then also the father, the very few
the dad,
father.
Yeah, I was really sad when Tiger died, but
Yeah.
I think just that scene, because he was technically carrying that scene. It was really good.
Yeah. Again, like the emotions in the scenes are usually done pretty well.
They're
so,
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't fit together very well.
Yeah. There was something. Oh, there's one thing that I like kind of hoped they were gonna do, but then they like didn't do it, and it was when like Mulan kind of gets like all like depressed of after she thinks like Wentai died, and at first like and they show her like like drinking or whatever, and I was like, oh, are we gonna get like just like bitter and like grizzled like fuck the world Mulan, and like that's actually might be kind of interesting, but then they just have her be like all like crying in the tent or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, okay, here's the emotional woman, right? You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I kind of want to see just dead, like pissed at hating the world Mulan, just be like,
or like,
fuck it, we're killing these assholes. I don't know, like it's. I feel like this would be kind of interesting, yeah. So, but see, now I'm wondering, like, how is the actual Disney live action Mulan going to work? Right?
When I looked at the summary, I got slightly concerned because apparently in that version they're going to add a witch.
What?
A witch?
Yeah, because
Wait, a witch?
yeah, like I don't know, but it seems like they might kind of do a version of this story with a twist, so it's technically, I mean, I'm still probably going to see it anyway, and I guess it'll be a third version of the story, but I don't know about like bringing weird magic into this.
Yeah, because the thing is, I know when like the first trailer came out like a bit ago, people were like all up in arms, like, this isn't Mulan, where's Mushu and whatever, and it's like, that would not work in live action.
No.
Like, so all the people complaining about that, I'm like, no. I if anything, again, everyone's all bitching about how all these remakes are all the same, and it's like, this is going to be different.
This is evidently not the same.
Yeah.
They
So-
cut out like more than half of the characters.
So I'm curious to see how it goes, but at the same time, I was again thinking about how this movie especially handles the whole about Mulan being a woman. It's like how it doesn't really do very much with it. I'm thinking like, how is Disney gonna try to do this in live action without it coming off as really stupid? Because at least like in animation, you can it works a bit better in terms of like, oh yeah, sure, you can believe that like Ping's face is male, right? But it's like, how are you gonna do that in live action? I don't know. It's so I'm I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I'm maybe gonna like go out to see it in theaters, but I'm curious at least to maybe check it out at some point.
I feel like
Did you guys also hear about the live action Little Mermaid that's coming out too?
yes, I support a black Ariel. Thank you.
See, the thing is, okay, and I finally the whole thing is like, oh, so you're saying that like I don't know, some other character should be whatever, and it's like, or no, what was it? Oh, so like Black Panther should be white. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. The whole point is a character's like race and gender or sexuality, whatever, it can change if that race, gender, sexuality is not important to the story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that Ariel is black or white. Okay, it's the most you could possibly argue is that like they're like from like Atlantis or something, right? And like they're so that's like kinda they could be like Greek or Roman, but like that's the only thing you could possibly draw in terms of like real world connection, and that's like really tenuous anyway. So meanwhile, you can't be like, oh yeah, let's just have White Panther, and it's like that doesn't work because it's literally the point of his character. So yeah, that conversation is stupid. So it's like, yeah, okay, you can't. For example, it would be dumb to have like I don't know, like an Indian Merida from Brave. That doesn't work, right?
That doesn't work.
And it also wouldn't work if like they did like How to Train Your Dragon, but in like with like Aboriginals in Australia. Like that doesn't work either, right? Because those are very clearly based off of specific cultures, right?
Yeah.
But mermaids, no, like that. So that that's my principled line because I know people are just stupid about it. But anyway. I mean, to be honest, I don't really give a shit about The Little Mermaid, so just as a story, so...
I don't like it either, but I might watch it just for Black Ariel to make people mad, so...
Yeah, that's true. I like making and babies mad, so... Anyway, Mulan.
Mulan.
Yeah. I feel like there isn't too much to say besides...
I will say since we got things over with like the pacing and everything, the set pieces and costumes were really nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chinese people are very good at making costumes and like that kind of stuff because I mean I've seen glimpses of those period dramas and woo, big budget for that.
Yeah, it's a nice looking film.
Yeah.
Although, okay, this is one thing I was confused about. So you know, like they get like hit with like a dust storm or something, and they call it like the poison dragon or something.
Yeah.
And
I was like confused about that.
I was like, was that like some like attack from like the other army or something? And I'm looking on Wikipedia, it's like, no, it just says a dust storm happens, and it's like, okay, it just seemed like really random.
Maybe they just call it that because
I'm like, is this like chemical warfare? Like, what's going on?
I imagine they just call it that because, you know, science isn't really a thing yet.
I know, it's just, it came off as like, oh, it's like some attack from the enemy, and I'm like, huh? But, yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, the costume was good. Again, most of the emotions were pretty good. I mean, it's kind of hard for us to tell if the acting's good or not, but it didn't seem, like, obviously bad. So, we did watch this subtitled, in case anyone's wondering.
I did notice there's not a whole lot of dialogue.
There's not, there isn't that much.
The lines are really short, and the conversations are also really short. I don't know if that's also just a quirk or nuance of, like, Chinese films, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
I think that also might be
from the poems, too, maybe?
Oh, maybe. That could be... Oh, that would be interesting if they did that.
I think this might be one reason why we feel like there isn't a ton of character development, just because they just didn't speak very much, so...
Yeah, that's true. But you can do a lot of character development with just, like, body language and...
Yeah, but again, like what we were saying before, is that the scenes just kind of fade out when it's like, you know, so it's like, oh, okay.
I think the best way to look at this movie is actually just as a war film, so if you're into war films, maybe you'll find it kind of interesting, because I thought the choreography was pretty good.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. Are we ready to, reveal our ratings?
Reveal.
We just look at the numbers again.
I was a bit like uncertain at first in terms of what number to give. I was kind of waffling between two of them, but I feel fairly confident that I'm going to give it a 6. It's a high 6, but it's still a 6 for me.
I think I'm also going to give it a 6. I think originally I was going to give it I was waffling between 6 and 5 because of I think for me the scene changes were really jarring for me.
It is really hard to keep track of like what's going on because of those.
It's really hard to keep track, and it also takes you out of the experience of watching the film too.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of leaning between 7 and 6, but yeah, especially early on I was kind of stuck, but then especially later on when things kind of, like, especially like late at the last half when it like started dragging a little bit, and also the scene transitions, like, okay, this is a 6. Where like, I do still think that was overall positive, but...
Yeah.
And Mike?
Overall it was a positive, Ben.
So since I actually viewed this more as a war film pretty early on, I'm gonna go with 7.
Okay.
That and Tiger is now my boy. Rip.
We're starting a list now, Valen.
Yep.
Full of Mayan's boys.
Oh my
I
God.
have more sons now.
How many are we up to at this point?
Tom Holland.
I feel like there was
Baby
another one.
Anakin.
Oh yeah. Wasn't there a third one?
There was a third one. Who was the third one?
Well, I don't know.
I guess now it's Tiger.
Okay, I guess now it's
no,
Tiger.
so we had Spider-Man, and then we had Night Monkey. Okay, anyway. But yeah, okay, well, so that gives us a total score of 19, which is decent.
Decent.
Yeah, I guess, again, considering we don't have any experience with Chinese film and, you know, how this works or whatever, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are we ready to decide, or not decide, because randomly find out what we're going to be watching next?
I'm kind of scared. I kind of hope it's not one of the movies that I had.
So, I guess I added back into my thing Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
We're not going to see that or Spider-Verse next.
Yeah.
So if we get my numbers, we're going to re-roll.
Yeah. So the
Wait,
rule.
you picked Shawshank Redemption?
I wanted to watch it, yeah.
Yeah. So Maya's replaced her slot with Shawshank Redemption, and the rule is basically now neither of Maya's picks can be chosen again for this next one. So
Scared.
let's see what we get.
I hope it's not mine.
Oh.
What is...
What
I
is it?
think this is really funny. I think that is
Is
another
that...
Asian movie.
Shin Godzilla!
It's Shin Godzilla.
Oh my god, we were talking about this earlier
We
today,
were.
too.
Oh my god, that's really funny. Okay, so now Tara, we were talking about this. So tell us to Tara at least. Shin Godzilla won, I believe it was 7 Japanese Academy Awards,
What?
including Best Director and Best Picture. So this is an actually legitimately good movie. It's not just like an action shitpost, okay?
Okay.
So that's something. And I actually saw like kind of a review about this earlier that actually got me interested in various ways. More interested than I already was, because I had heard that this is a legitimately like really good movie. So yeah, so I guess we go from a Chinese movie to a Japanese movie.
Oh boy.
So see you next week with for Shin Godzilla.
Oh my god.
Foreign Movie Monday.
Oh boy.
Movie Cracker.
Well, see you then.